Assalamu alaikum. Sulaiman Rahim here. Messenger of the Covenant. Breaker of the 7 seals. Welcome. Brothers and sisters, I have a very special presentation for you this evening. Again, this is what I've been working on several days. It's a redux of the one I did, I believe, yesterday. I had some issues with it. I'm pretty sure I corrected them. I went over twice to make sure everything is correct. So I'm not going to, the substance of it is okay. There's a few technical errors, but the substance of the presentation is okay. So I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to add to it. And as I've been saying, I'm going to add more and more to these things. I'm talking about the same subject pretty much because we're at that time in history. Everything's coming to a point, convergence. Everything coming to a point that scriptures will tell us about. If you read all the scriptures that you're aware of, all talking about a certain point in time where everything changes. Some say it's the Armageddon. Some say it's return of Christ. Some say it's they have all kinds of explanations for it, all kinds of terms. Judgment Day, right? The event of the Mahdi, all kinds of things. So we're at that point in time now where all these things come together. We're at that point. We're in the year of it. And the only question at the point is that exactly when the fuse will be ignited. We're not talking about months anymore, or years. But that's all in the hands of Master Farad Muhammad. So let's move on, brothers and sisters. Like I said, it's a fairly lengthy presentation. I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. There's a lot of things I want to cover. I'm going to talk about things I've talked about previously and something I talked about yesterday. And I'm going to clear up. So let's proceed and see. Let's proceed. New Jerusalem. See, New Jerusalem. They're talking about a new heavens, new earth. The New Jerusalem. What is this Jerusalem? Jerusalem means city of peace. At least that's what we're told in Arabic or Aramaic. But this New Jerusalem. Okay? Now, that's not the vision you've been given here. Not original people. So you're given an American dream. You're not supposed to think about New Jerusalem. That doesn't pertain to you. See, they've snatched away your vision. We're going to talk about that. New Jerusalem, those things you're not supposed to think about. You think about making America great again or making America better again or whatever. Your vision is supposed to be confined to here, what you've been told, what to think, the vision you should have. You know, I was noticing they keep advertising that schizophrenia is affecting more original people, black people, than anybody else in America. And I looked at the symptoms of it. And I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like they're saying to me that if you question or you have any issues with the ideas, the philosophies, the reality they imposing upon you, then you're schizophrenic. You believe in fantasies and things. And so they're diagnosing people that don't agree with them, black people, that maybe minds opening up, start questioning things, and schizophrenic. So they're going to drug you because there's something wrong with you because you're not a good nigger. See, you're not a good nigger. Because you're a Negro, but well, you're not a Negro but anymore because you ask a question. You're not supposed to ask a question. Something wrong with you. You're not supposed to, what about this? What about that? What about Christianity? What about America? Say America's great and they do all these things. But what about all that history of Holocaust? And you must be schizophrenic. I'm pretty sure. I'm not a doctor again, right? So I'm not giving any diagnosis. But I'm pretty sure that that's a major part of it. Because all of a sudden we're schizophrenic. We don't believe in reality anymore. That's what schizophrenia is, basically. You believe in their reality. So something must be wrong with you, because you've taken and you've broken through your programming. Because you're not programmed to think outside the box. You're supposed to think inside the box. USS of A, 3,000 by 2,000 miles. You're supposed to think within that box. Nothing else outside it. No, that's not had nothing to do with you. So you're schizophrenic. You need some drugs. Drug you back into compliance. Brothers and sisters, games they playing and you participate in. We're going to talk about quite a few things here, brothers. I got a lot of topics here. Some redux and some new. New Jerusalem. That's your proper vision. And people without a vision perish. But do you have a vision? Because a dream is not a vision. A dream is not true. And that's not real. See, they play games with you. A dream is not, that's not a vision. A dream is not real, by definition. They're telling you you're supposed to pursue the American dream, something that's not real. Even though you see it's turned into a nightmare around you. But you're supposed to believe in the American dream. That's why it says in the Quran, it says, don't blame me. I called them, they came. I just called them, they came. It was clear, the message. Satan's message is clear. But Farrakhan's line message is clear. He's not representing Elijah Muhammad. No way, no fashion, no shape, no how. So if you caught up in that, that's either you're a demon or you're just an idiot. That's on you. And willful ignorance, there's a price to pay for that. Okay, what we're going to talk about here first is Adam and Eve, that story. Because they got you believing that's the beginning of man, and then they characterize them as Europeans, right? So how, and by biologically, right, mathematically and scientifically, if that was true, where do we come from? Because you cannot produce us from them. It's impossible. It's impossible to produce us from them. So once they show you that, they don't have to come and explain anything else, because somehow you cursed. How did you get here? You must have been cursed. Because if they was first, and God created them first, then where'd you come from? And you're black, so black is bad. You must be Cain. You must be one of the bad guys. You must be Satan. They don't have to say it. Your mind registers that. So your mind calculates whether you want to calculate or not. And they say, you're saying things that don't make any sense. Because that's the base of your knowledge. See, if they can control the base of your knowledge, they control anything you say and anything you do, your actions after that. That's why you think the Bible and the Quran is the most powerful books on the planet. No, they're not. Here in America, the most powerful book is the dictionary. Because they can play games with those words, and then they can have you reading that Bible and have you interpret any kind of way they want you to interpret, because they change the meaning of words. And they do that. Like right now, they're telling you, well, a man could, no difference between a man and a woman, or a man could be a man, a man could pregnant, that kind of stuff. They're changing definition of things. And I'm gonna say, I wasn't gonna get into that here, but the target of that is you. The target, all this craziness is you. That was something I was going to talk about another time, but I'm going to bring a little bit of it today. You read just about Balaam. See, the whole idea was they was trying to get Balaam, right, who is matched from Muhammad, that story, right, because the Jews wanted him, because see, according to their idea, he's a Jew, because his mother was, if you read story Esther was a Jew. I'm getting too far afield here. But understand, matched from Muhammad, reached to Esther. Esther had a son called Darius. His father she was Jewish, but his father was original. And Darius is the one that took down Babylon. And we know Babylon represents America. So we know Darius is matched from Muhammad. And his father was original. His father was a very powerful man. And his mother, very powerful, wise man. His mother was Jewish. Wait. See? Anyway, they wanted him to be on their side and confuse us and teach us in a way that would turn us against ourselves. Teach us bad food and think bad and everything else. He refused to do it. So we're going to talk about that a little more depth and a little further down the line here. That story of Balaam. And the mule his horse is riding on, the mule is riding on, that's Farrakhan. If you read that story, you'll understand it. Because he refused to obey Balaam. That's whole. I'm not getting that. That's a whole nother story, bros. Let me stop here. I got a lot of things I need to talk about. But the whole idea is they wanted to confuse you and teach you to go opposite to yourself. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be the next topic after this one. But we're talking about Adam and Eve here. Now, if you read that story, they want you to think that story represents, like I said, first man and woman, which it does it. Because there's many inconsistencies if you think that way. And there's a sealed version, unsealed version. I'm going to touch on both of them. Now, in the sealed version, right, a day is 500 years. Because when you go down, you got 6,000 years in Genesis, and half of it is a day and half is a night. Right? They divide each day into a day and a night. Okay? So, and that means 500 years, 500 years for each day and 500 years for each night. So when they told Adam, when you eat of that tree, if you eat that tree the same day, you will die. So in that case, they're talking about with that 500-year period. Okay? And they've been 500 years out of the abyss. In chapter 20, they've been 500 years out of that. Okay? I'm not going into more detail, well, a little bit, right? And we're the tree that was transplanted over here. We're the tree. And they was told not to eat a tree of knowledge. Remember, this is tree of knowledge. Knowledge of good, knowledge of evil. That means 360 degrees. Tree of knowledge. Okay? There's two connotations there. In the sealed Bible, there's a connotation, and the unsealed Bible is a connotation. In the sealed Bible, right, in the 500-year period, if they've had a tree over here, they would die. They would die within that 500 years, and that 500 years almost up. See? So you can get this from the sealed Bible. But in the unsealed Bible, the day they eat it, which was a year eat it, they would die. So there's a convergence there between, that means the last year of the 500 years, right? And this is it right here, 2022. It doesn't say that they actually literally died, because you see, they ate of it, but they was kicked out of the garden. They died as a nation. They was thrown into eternal hell because everything was going to go bad for them. They eat dirt and everything else. Nothing was going great for them anymore. Nothing but bad luck. So they wasn't literally die. So you got to read the story carefully. They wasn't put to death. It says, because the day you eat, you will die. So God lied? No. He died. You would die as a nation. So we're going to break this down into more detail. Now, the story goes is that, there's a lot of information there. I've talked about it in previous presentations, right? There's a lot of information there, but I'm going to stick to a certain segment of it. So remember, this is a tree of knowledge, right? Of good and evil. And that should be 360 degrees, right? Apparently, there's another aspect to it. But anyway, right? And so when you understand that, right, one of them is the cross and one is the Nation of Islam. Those that study the angel know what I'm talking about. Those that don't, well, you go along and turn it off, whatever. But you're going to find that's exactly what it means. Knowledge of good, knowledge of evil. Because we came over here, right? We came over here as Muslims, and they turned us to Christian. So what would be better? What it was before, or what the niggas they turned us into? What would be better? What you think is better? What was before we came here, and the niggas they turned us to? So, and the niggas turned to is under the cross. And they brought us here under the cross. They tore all the havoc across the world under the cross. So what? So they create havoc all over the world under the symbol of the cross. They took this country under the symbol of the cross. They committed genocide under the symbol of the cross. They brought us over here and raped us and murdered us for Holocaust for nearly 5 years under the symbol of the cross. So How is that knowledge of good? What good is that in that? What good did we experience because of that? And then they force it on us. That's knowledge of evil. Because that's all they did was evil. It says they would come out to kill, steal, and destroy. That's exactly what they did. They try to put it all someplace. No, that's exactly what the Europeans did when they came out of the Dark Ages, where they claim it's millennia, that's the future. No, that's their 1,000-year period that they was locked up and bound by the resurrected, Abraham's resurrected nation of Islam. Abraham's resurrected, right, Islamic empire. And Prophet Muhammad resurrected. That's why it calls a resurrection. That stuff. Prophet Muhammad didn't build Mecca. He didn't build all that stuff. He didn't start the pilgrimage. All that stuff was already there. It was just a decline. He resurrected. That's why it calls a resurrection. Anyway, we move on, brothers and sisters. Okay. So it was two aspects there: tree of knowledge of good and knowledge of evil. Now they was told to eat of it. So in other words, I mean, it's two connotations there: the sealed Bible and unsealed Bible. One is they literally eat it, and the other one is they get to gain the knowledge from it. Because that's the tree of knowledge. You eat it, you get knowledge of it. But they didn't have any knowledge. That means they had no. If it was 300, they had no knowledge whatsoever. And they tell you that because they was naked. They was naked and was happy being naked. See, let's move, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So let's walk through this. And the Lord commanded the man, saying, from every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you see, there's no tree that produces two fruits, so there's multiple trees there. And you see it later because you got tree of life, that see. So, and the knowledge of good and evil you should not eat, for the day that you eat from it, you will certainly die. Now, this is Genesis, sealed Bible. They're talking about that 500-year period. If you mess with that tree at 500-year period, you would die. You would die before during that 500-year period, right? That'll be the end of the 6,000-year period. But the sealed, unsealed Bible means that 1 year, that last year. Okay, but it says now knowledge. The last year, it gets down to literal eating. Well, I'm gonna go into that here. Because it says that when a famine is coming, and you're going to be on the menu. The scriptures tell you that. You're going to be on the menu. There's no food at all. And you already considered 3/5 humans. That means you can be eaten. Because if they starve and they have no food, who do you think they're going to eat? Anyway, that's another story, brothers and sisters. See? So they was told not to eat that tree of that knowledge. Right? Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay. If they were naked and they weren't ashamed, that means they were ignorant. They had no knowledge, and they weren't even ashamed. They weren't even ashamed of it. That's how ignorant they were. They was ignorant. They was naked, and they wasn't ashamed of it because they didn't even realize they was naked. That means they was ignorant. They had no knowledge whatsoever. Remember, they had no knowledge because the knowledge is good and evil. That's 360 degrees, right? They had no knowledge. They had no knowledge. They had no knowledge. That's Europeans they're talking about. They was ignorant, and they wasn't ashamed of being ignorant. Because if you're ignorant, how you know you're ignorant? That's what it said. You have to really understand these stories. I'm going to a more detail than I usually do. They're both naked. They're talking about America and Britain here, cutting to the chase. That's what I'm showing here, right? American Britain is Adam and Eve, because first came Adam. He came out of the dust of the earth. Earth represents European countries, and that's where Britain came from. Britain is exiles from Europe. Britain is not in Europe. Britain is an island. And America came out of Britain. That Eve came out of the side of, and then the womb was closed. Then they had the revolution. They broke it. That's what they talk about, their brothers and sisters. That's American. And Adam is Britain, and Eve is America. And they had a son called Cain, and we're going to say in a minute, that's false Israel. They produced false Israel. This story is perfect, brothers and sisters. That's what we're exactly talking about. Okay? So they was ignorant until they brought us over here. Because when you look around, you say, How come America got all this innovation? How come they got all this technology and no one else? They didn't invent cars in China. They didn't invent the internet in China. They didn't invent computers in China. They didn't invent in Europe. They didn't invent in Britain. They didn't invent in France. They didn't invent in none of those places. In India, it's always invented here. All came here because that's where the tree of knowledge of good and evil was. That was us. And they was ignorant because they were born in existence 6,000 years ago, and for 5,500 years, they were still horse and buggy. After 5,500 years, they were still horse and buggy. So until they got hold of us, and all of a sudden, all this innovation. You think it's a coincidence? That's what the story is telling you. Okay. So they was negative. That means they were ignorant, totally ignorant, and they were. When they came out of Europe, they went all over the place seeking knowledge. With the China seeking knowledge, everywhere looking seeking knowledge. Why are you seeking knowledge? If you're so wise, you're the best, and you're superior to everybody else, why are you not spreading knowledge? Why are you seeking it? If you're so rich and powerful, why are you seeking people's gold? Why are you seeking people's land? You should be in the light on the shining hill. You should be telling everybody how great Europe is. See what we've done here? But Europe was a shithole that you was escaping from. And you was what you was escaping. You were what you were escaping from. You're escaping from yourself. So you brought your hell with you, because now you turn the earth into a whole. That's why it says those who destroy the earth, God's going to destroy you, because now you turn the whole earth to a shithole like you did with Europe. Because if you're so great and so wise, everything, why did you turn Europe into a shithole? And then you're fleeing from it. That's why they don't want you CRT. They don't want you to tell their real history. Because they're ignorant people, they don't know anything, and that's what this story is really telling you. They're ignorant, they're naked, no, they don't know it. And they don't even, they was too stupid to even know they're naked. But they make you think. Let me say this before I move on. You know, if you got children, and say your children somehow come into a lot of money, or they become a famous or something, but you still have control over everything they have. You still have control of their resource, everything, right? As long as they under your control. And so you can make people think that you're the one that's producing all this. That's what's happening here. We're going to talk about that in a little more detail in a minute. But that's what's happening here. Because all this is coming from us. But they have control of it. That's why we got to be removed from here. And I got a whole presentation explained on that 50-year period. Every 50 years we get an energy wave. Right? I got a whole several presentations explaining that. And now we're on the dawn, right? On the precipice of a next wave, a new revelation, a new technology, because this technology you're living with right now came in existence 50 years ago. Technology, before that came 50 years, every 50 years, you have a new technology, boom, something people didn't know about before, it's more powerful. And now we're on the verge of having the next one. Anyway. But as long as we're here, they control it, so they can take credit for it. Yet, if there's a pure race and everything else, how come all the Europeans are not? What innovation came out of Germany? What innovation came out of Britain? What innovation came out of France? Tell me. Tell me what innovation came out of those places. They duplicate what they get here. It's just like China. They just duplicate what they get here. So why? What makes America so special? Because they have us. That's a deep, dark secret that they don't want you to know. The Bible tells you that. It says, when we leave here, we'll take their gold and silver. We're the gold and silver they talk about. It said they will plunder Egypt when we leave here. That's why Egypt didn't want us to leave. That means they totally destroy their whole economy. They'll be bankrupt. Totally devastated. Because it says, we'll plunder Egypt by taking every. Okay, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Now I got ellipses here because I'm not taking anything out. I got ellipses to certain verses I'm not, because it doesn't refer to what I'm trying. So you can go and read those verses. I'm not trying to hide anything here. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and they'd been told not to mess with it, right? And that it was delightful for the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise. See? Knowledge. If you eat it, you become wise, right? She took some of his fruit and ate, and she also gave some of her husband with her, and he ate. So it says Eve America is Eve. Remember, she did it first and then got taught Britain to do it. See? But she was the, see, they tried to put the women down. No, it had nothing to do with women. Women didn't cause hell in the world. That's another thing that they do. These cocaine, they always putting the females down. Always. See? But we're going to lift them up. Because they cause more hell than anybody else. Anyway, that's another story, brothers and sisters. So that's the story here. And I got the key on the side that shows you, because we don't make these keys up, right? So when I show you what's the tree of life and the tree of good and evil, I showed it there in the key there. That's the angel key. That's the seals that unlock the rest of the scripture, right? Okay. So the 8, but this in the unsealed Bible, this refers to the war about to break out in the Middle East, in heaven. They're going to attack us as soon as they're kicked out of there. And why they're going to do that? Part of the reason because a famine is going to hit America like a storm. And during that time, the famine will hit America. Famine's on the way. It's galloping. And they don't have any food here. When it says no food, there'll be no food. It says no food anywhere. In the beginning of the famine be so bad, it says that people will try to catch birds and find bird shit, and they would sell bird shit for a fortune. That'd be the only thing to eat. And the mule's head, how much food meat can you get from a mule's head? That's the beginning. And then there's nothing. So that's trying to really tell you that, because I mean inflation is going to be out of the roof. So even if there was anything, you wouldn't be able to afford it. So inflation is already roaring, and it's going to get terrible in a minute. They said the gold and silk will be thrown out in the streets. Oprah and all them, they think they'll have nothing in a minute. It's going to be worthless. That's what's about to happen. There'll be a famine, and you're going to be on the menu. And we already showed the presentation. That's exactly, the scripture said that. It said they're going to eat, literally eating us. And then they're going to eat their own children. Okay. So let's move on here. And then, after 8 of it, then the eyes go open. Now you have to understand the angel represents the original nation. It's corrupted now because it's half of it original, half of it's demons, because of rape. They raped our people. And so half the blacks in America, right, are demons. They're master's children. They're house Negroes. They look like us, walk like us, but they ain't us. They wolves in sheep clothing. We're going to talk about that a little further down, right? See? But it's still considered part of this whole nature, but it's plagued by demons anyway. But they also call it 7 eyes. So now, once they eat, now they have eyes. That's what it means. Then they have eyes, because they ate. Now they have eyes, right? And the eyes open. Then they realize they was naked, how ignorant they were. After eating, and they get this knowledge, then they realize how ignorant they were. See? And they try to cover themselves up. That gets into sackcloth. That gets another story altogether. But the point is, brothers and sisters, the point I'm trying to make here is that they're ignorant. They're not wise. And the thing is, they're trying to convince you that they are. They're stealing you. That's why they came with patents and things, because they didn't want the slaves somehow get credit for what came from the slaves. If you want to call them slaves. So they want to take credit for it. They said, that's my invention. They haven't invented a damn thing but trouble and evil. If you only knew the whole story, brother, says all you see is technology, everything came out of your minds. You're the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They still in the front. That's what it said. They was ignorant and naked, didn't know it. And they start getting it from us. And they want to take credit for it. That's why America's so powerful. They got powerful off of us. That says, by your seed, Abraham, all nations will be blessed. All nations bless all this stuff because they get it from America, and America got it from us. Okay, so what's happening here? And then we get to the point, this is the crucial point here. Then there was another tree, tree of life. See, there was multiple trees. And it says this tree of life was so powerful that they got a hold of that. Remember, they were supposed to not even mess with tree of knowledge of good and evil. But if they got hold of that, they said they'd be like us. They'd be gods and they would live forever. So where's this tree? This tree is knowledge also, but special knowledge, superior knowledge. And the point I want to make here is that every 50 years I got presentations explained. I'm not going to go here now because that's another hour or so trying to explain that. I said every 50 years we get an energy wave as the universe is contracting. We get an energy wave every 50 years. And every 50 years comes new music, new innovation, right? And new ideology and everything. And then you got a divergence. We're talking about a convergence, but got a divergence between the demons and us. Because our paths was getting, because we was in the fields, right? Where there was a division right there, because they was in the house, we was in the fields. And 50 years later, after the war, right, then we moved to the cities, and they stayed sharecropping with math. They stayed with math on sharecropping. You see? And then next day, you want to go integration, separation. You want to get closer to massa. We want to get the hell out of here. And now we're at this point in time where we actually going to leave, and they're going to stay. But also comes a new music. So I'm briefly touched this because first was blues, 1860, that's when it came about. 1920s, jazz, 50 years later, approximately 50 years, don't say exactly, right? 50 years later, Motown sound. And now you got a new sound that's about to come out. Don't talk about rap. Rap is all that stench from Motown. It's just stench from it, right? The new sound and new technology coming. And it says if they get hold of this new technology, because this technology they have right now, computers and all that kind of stuff, that didn't come to 50 years ago. The last thing. The one before that, right, it was planes and the cars and stuff. Where'd it come from? Out of nowhere. And then 50 years later, all of a sudden they got computers and satellites. They had those, when Rush put Sputnik up there, right, there was nothing up there. All that's happened 50 years ago. Now a new technology is coming. It's going to be great in all of that. Each one's, as Daniel says, knowledge will be increased. So it's be great in all of that. And it'd be so great that we don't want to get their hands on it. Because we stay here, they'll control it. And so they'd be so powerful, we'd never get rid of them. They'll live forever. And that's why it'll be a time of unprecedented trouble. That's why we have to be taken out of here. And we're taken out during the time of unprecedented trouble, not before, not after. Doing that means we're going to be here when hell breaks loose. When the famine, everything happens, we're going to be here, but we're going to be taken out of it. And we got to be taken out of it because we're the tree of life. And if they get hold of that knowledge, that it's going to come out of us. It's like the music came out of us. All technology came out. Remember they started hidden figures. They gave you a little hint right there. Those sisters put them in space. Those white boys, they was ignorant. They had all this education and they couldn't figure it out. And these few sisters, they didn't tell you the whole story about that. Figured out. Now that's why I call it hidden figures. They know what they was hiding it. So in other words, they so great. How come they couldn't figure it out? They had to get these sisters that wasn't anywhere near educated as they were, and they showed them how to do it. And there was brothers involved too. But they don't want to tell you about that anyway. See. So then the Lord said, "Behold, the man has become like one of us." See, he got this technology and stuff. But that's something we do. Right? We the creators. See, knowing good and evil, and now he might, right? The 360 degrees, right? Now he might reach out with his hand and take fruit also from the tree of life, eat and live forever. We don't want to do that. So he drove the man out. See, because when this happens, see Adam, when Eve, they drove out of Eden. This America's Eden. They're going to get thrown out of here into captivity, and that's the end of them. Right? But there's more to it than that. But anyway, he stationed his cherubim and flaming sword, which turned every direction to guard the way of the tree of life. In other words, they kept him from getting anywhere near it. They don't get that technology, because that technology is this technology that's, remember, live forever. That's a kingdom that will live forever and will never be destroyed. That's technology that's going to be the foundation of it. That same technology that has that Master Muhammad is using to keep those wheels flying. They can't touch. Now they believe. Now they accept that they accept that they're real. They stop pretending it was a myth. That's why we have to get out of here. That's why people like Farrakhan and tell we ain't going nowhere, because they part of they're working with them. They know the truth. They don't want us to leave here because they know they're getting fat and rich off our technology, of our minds. That's the story of Adam and Eve. That should tell you why we will leave here. We have to, because if we don't leave here, we never get rid of them, and they're going to get rid of us. Because once they get that, they won't need us anymore for anything. So why keep us around? This is happening, brothers and sisters, right before your eyes. It's that. What point of convergence I'm talking about? Because that fact right there means Master Muhammad has to move quickly, soon. Because we're at that 50-year mark. That means that's enough. So I'm trying to all the convergent points, because we have to have faith that all these things are going to happen, and doubt is the enemy of faith. And I'm showing these convergent points to remove all doubt. So this is just one point of convergence. You say, oh man, that means we have to live here soon. Not 50, 40, 50, because that 50-year cycle is correct. We have to be leaving here very soon. We have to. Unless we're going to let them have that power. Point of convergence. Remember, this is about convergence. Okay, let's move to the next one. Demons. Now we're going to talk about the demons and legion. This is the book of Mark. See? Things I don't want you to know. Now we're going to go into a little more detail here. See? So I'm going to read some of this and I'm going to speak on it, right? When he got out of the boat, see, this is Suleiman, or some you call it Jesus or whatever. Immediately, he got out of the boat. Immediately, the man from the tombs, that's the one possessed by demons, come, right? And he's got unclean spirits. I mean, he's plagued by demons, right? See? Yeah, so in other words, the boat represents the top. That people understand that the top, that represents the boat. I'm not going into any detail about that, brothers, but when that means he's coming, this is the time the war starts. It's time the war starts, right? And so the one that's plagued by demons, he runs to Suleiman, right? And bows to him. See? What's this say? Immediately. That's when the war started. This is a story about Exodus where Elijah's people, Moses' people were separated from Aaron's people, and Aaron's people was dispatched. Okay, third verse. He lived among the tombs. No one was able to bind him anymore, even with a chain. Now that's the point. I'm gonna come back to that, right? Because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been. This is kind of the chains had been torn apart, right? And there was no one able to do him. I'm paraphrasing because this writing is kind of small. Yeah, I should have made it larger, a little larger. Constantly, night and day, right? He was screaming among the tombs, mountains, and mountains, rallying himself with stone, cutting himself with stones. The bottom line is, this person, these people that was, because this represents people, don't represent an individual. Plagued with demons, unclean spirits. You see the demons, they're called demons later on. He's out of, no one can control him. He broken the chains and everything else. But the demons had him. Now, what was that talking about? See, I'm going to try to get this theme across to you, brothers and sisters. Not only they control your wealth, it says we leave out here, we leave out with great wealth. That means you have great wealth now, but they control it. They give you the shit and they keep the gold. They say, okay, you got $1 million, okay, we allow you to buy a shit farm, $1 million shit farm. Okay, it's worth $1 million, but it's a shit farm. They control what you do with that money because they're money. I'm not going to the whole symbiotic relationship, but basically, in chain slavery, that's what it was all about, right? In Holocaust, we was building mansions stuff for them, and they was putting in shacks, no clothes, of course these shitlings and cow chips. It's just in the Bible said they have to feed you cow manure or cow dung. So we was getting the shit deal part of the deal, and they was getting the gold part of the deal. Okay, let's continue. See. So what's happening here? What's happening here is that this person out of control. But demons had come in and had control of him. But he had broken his chains, nothing else. See, that's what happened. See, Elijah Muhammad came and taught you, because he was talking about the Levites, and they was no longer suffering self-imposed energy deprivation. They're no longer suffering that. Right? No longer suffering personal energy deprivation. So he taught them how to use their energy to manage their energy, right? To build a force field power around themselves. So they broke all the chains, nobody had control. Because, in other words, again, see, the point is, once you broke that personal energy deprivation situation, devils had no control, because that was the control ahead of you, because you were suffering self-imposed energy deprivation, and they was the personification of that. But once you no longer suffer it, then they have no power over you anymore. And Elijah Muhammad showed you, do this, do that, right? And so they had no power over you anymore. That's what it said. They broke the chain. So we talking about Elijah Muhammad's army here. That's we talking about the Levites. So they had broken all that. Nobody controlled them. Okay? So they had to send the demons in. Wolves in sheep clothing, Farrakhan, those guys, to turn that power, to reduce that power and turn that power against themselves. Because now they're fighting against themselves, using the power Elijah Muhammad taught them, knowledge, against themselves. Now they was using it against themselves. So they had the power they was powerful enough, they had the power, right, to control themselves, because there's nobody to control them. But the demons had them. And had them turn that power against themselves. That's exactly what Farrakhan has done. Exactly what he's done. Because he's Legion. Louis Eugene Grounds NOI backwards. He turned NOI all the way backwards against themselves. That's what Legion is. Legion. Louis Eugene Grounds NOI back. He said, no, my name is Louis Eugene Walcott. You can call it whatever you want to. Louis Eugene Grounds NOI backwards. He turned NOI all the way backwards, right? ION. And that's what happened. That's the story. He's plagued by demons. He filled the whole place up with demons. That's get the story of Peter. But the whole story with demons, and the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad's army, right, is plagued by demons, and they're working against themselves. They had the power. They had the personal power to defeat the devils, but they're working against themselves. So the demons took that power away from them. See? How do they take it away? They take it away by deceiving them to misusing their power, using energy, diverting the energy instead of using it, mismanaging it. They can't take the energy away, only teach them mismanagement. So in other words, if you're a millionaire, but you splurge your money, right, you mismanage it, you're going to be poor after a while. That's what happened. That's what the story is about right here. Let's move on, brothers and sisters. So seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed down before him. This is what's about to happen, brothers and sisters. That's why I'm talking. It's about to happen. It's in process right now because they got division over there. Read Exodus. When Moses returned, Aaron had him worshiping the golden calf. That's Farrakhan. And he says, those still with me, and those still with Elijah, they came and the rest stayed with Aaron, and they wiped out Aaron's people. This is about to happen, brothers and sisters. This is the process happening now, if you know like I know. I know a lot of things I can't tell you. But that's in the process happening now. That's why Farrakhan's been only talking about the last 2 months or whatever, about listen to Farrakhan. He ain't talking about current events, anything, even though the whole plan's going to hell. We talking about, listen, because he's in trouble over there. That's a story about the demon-possessed man. Okay, let's take a little further. And you can watch the key over here, see it changes as we move. Because that's the key and then, shouting with a loud voice, he said, what business do you have with me, Jesus, son of the Most High God? Most High God is Master Muhammad. Remember, Suleiman was David's son. Master Muhammad is David. He's the one who slew Goliath. Goliath is Satan. And his son Suleiman was supposed to be wiser. Right? That's where son of man comes from. Suleiman. Doesn't mean the son of a man. I mean, that's Elijah Muhammad understood that way. That's the way he understood it. Anyway, Suleiman comes from son of man. Son of man is the son of God, and the God is Master Muhammad, his spiritual son. That's another story, brothers and sisters. Anyway, his legion. See, he says, what business do you have with me, Jesus, son of the Most High God? I implore you, by God, do not torment me. He was tormenting them. See, we're going to talk about the son of perdition in a minute. He says, who the Lord would consume with the spirit of his mouth, but destroy with the brightness of his coming. So he's being tormented, and he tells you the nature of the torment. For he had already been saying, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. In other words, he's exposing who Farrakhan is. That's why he got trouble over there. He says, don't torment me. See? Because he says he will consume, he's being consumed, he's trying to stop it. Oh, please don't. No, you'll see in a minute. See? That's what's happening here. He's asking, where's your name? He says, my name is Legion, Louis Eugene Grounds, NOI backwards. For we are many. That means his nation of Islam is completely, right, overcome with demons. And he begged him earnestly, please not send me out of the country. And Farrakhan said, we ain't going nowhere. He said, don't send me out of the country. See, now he's on his knees, he's begging Suleiman. First he's talking, what you mess with me for? Now he said, don't torment me. And please don't send me out of the country. He's begging. Because it says, who the Lord will consume with the spirit of his mouth and destroy the brightness of his coming. So he's in the process of being destroyed. Now he's begging. That's the story of Mark. See? Because now Suleiman has control of NOI. And now he's getting ready. Remember, you're chaff and the wheat. Now he's got them all together. Now he's getting ready to separate the chaff out and put them in the fire. So what happens next? And there was a large herd of swine, right? That's the swine daddies, because remember, they're demons. They're demons. They really devils in black skin, right? And the demons begged him, see, unclean spirit of demons, saying, send us out, send us to the swine, they've entered them. So, hey, you don't make us leave the country, just send us back here to America, let's stay here with our daddies. Integration, remember, they wanted integration, we wanted the hell out of here. And Jesus gave permission. See, now he's got control of them, who destroyed with the brightness of his coming, right? And the unclean spirits entered the swine, and they rushed off the steep bank, and right, they got to fight with each other, and they destroyed each other. That's the demon war right? That's going to happen for 5 months after the war takes place. I'm showing this here in the key. So I'm not going to point. I'm just you can study on your own, right? I'm not going to try to explain this key because we'll be here. I'll be all night doing that. Okay, where are we at now? Okay, so that gets to Mark, that gets to Demas. Okay, so now we're going to go into another phase here. And for that, I'm going to take a minute break, brothers and sisters, so that you can ponder what I talked about. And we'll resume in about a minute. Oops. Oops. Oh, boy. Second, brothers and sisters. Right back. Give me 1 minute. Brothers and sisters, use this technology one of these days. Technical glitches here. I think that's it. Okay, bro and sister, another phase here. But I want you to understand when I talk about that mark, about the plagues, the understanding there, bro and sisters, is that the Nation of Islam is suffering self-imposed energy deprivation because the demons have them turn against themselves, turning away from Elijah Muhammad's teachings because they don't have the power that they had under Elijah Muhammad. They have energy, but he's turned against themselves. That's the whole purpose, right? His purpose is to don't call those devils anymore. And the FBI program, he gave him everything he wanted, right? In other words, emasculate. What's the word they use? To neuter, right, or to castrate, or Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad's army, and that's what they've done. Because they don't have any power. They don't have the power that they have in Elijah Muhammad. They have energy, they don't have the power. Because power is energy time discipline. He's taking the discipline away from them. And so now they turn their power against themselves. That's what Farrakhan's doing. Anyway, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Now, in that light, I want to we talk about the big lie, the lie. Now, I want you to understand, brothers and sisters, the battle is between pressure. Everything is pressure. Once you understand that, then you understand the nature of the Quran, the Bible, all of it's based on that principle. It's fundamental principle of the universe, pressure, force. Pressure is just force. Every action has opposite or equal reaction. Right? Every action has opposite and equal reaction. Right? You reap what you sow. Right? That's justice. God is justice. Consequence is the fundamental principle, fundamental nature of God. Right? Okay. Understand that. So when there's a conflict, there are all conflicts anyway. There's a conflict between pressure differentials. Higher pressure against lower pressure. Higher pressure always defeats lower pressure. Except, see, almost got you. There's no exception. There's no exception. But there's a way lower pressure can fight back. Only way it can defeat higher pressure, doesn't defeat the higher pressure itself, it defeats your ability to have higher pressure. Because it convinces you to mismanage your energy. Energy is power is energy times discipline. That's the whole story I said about Balaam. The whole idea was to get you to mismanage your energy. Then they control you. And that's what the weapon of low pressure is to convince you, to trick you into disarming yourself. Because if you have higher pressure, that's a force field that lower pressure cannot penetrate. It's impossible. Lower pressure cannot penetrate higher pressure. It's impossible. So if you have higher pressure, that's a force field. Against anything lower pressure, nothing lower pressure can do to penetrate. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Only thing to do is disarm you, to get you to disarm. Like in the Quran says, they built this invincible wall, and then God convinced them to tear it down themselves. So he's trying to tell you a story there. That's the whole story about what. Anyway, so that's the lie. Because you call it a lie. No, it's the way lower pressure attacks higher pressure with deception. See, they've taken you and have you have the promise of Abraham 400 years. You got a gold mine waiting for you. You got a promised land waiting for you. But they tell you, no, American dream. See? And that a dream by definition is not real. And you see it's collapsing all around you. But they tell you, no, don't pay attention to that. They told Martin Luther King, don't talk about no promised land. He did anyway to kill him the next day. They don't want you to have that vision. They said people without vision perish. So they want you to have a vision because that's power. Because if you got a vision, you're going to start investing in that. They want you to invest in that dream because that means you lower your pressure field and now they control you. That's whole story about Balaam. To look at you, lower your pressure field, right? So they can control you because they can't control you if you have higher pressure. But if you start diverting your energy with less discipline, because you know all this stuff, this gender and all that kind of stuff, that's aimed at you. That's you the one that's aimed at. You think it's aimed at you. That's why you got all these so-called drag queen, black drag queens, and all this stuff. That's aimed at the black community because they know you're rising, and know if you have that discipline, then they can do it. You could already saw evidence with Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad proved that's a fact. They couldn't do anything. That's why they couldn't do anything with the man that was possessed. They couldn't do anything with him. They had to trick him with the demons. They had no power over him. He had broke the chains and everything. Nothing they could do with him. But they had to trick him with the demons to turn him against himself. And that's what they're doing to you right now. Self-imposed energy deprivation. Oh, NFL, play games, party, have sex. You don't know what your gender is, right? All this kind of stuff. Drag queens. All it's aimed at you to get you to lower your discipline. As long as your discipline pressure is lower than theirs, then they control you. Because higher pressure controls lower pressure. They got to get you to lower your pressure. Your thought pressure, because thought is pressure. Got to get you to lower it. So they can take, because they know if you don't, you're going to troll them. And if you figure it out, then they're in trouble. They already saw Elijah Muhammad gave them an example, and they scared them. And now all is aimed at you to keep your mind on a lower level so they can control you. Because as long as you, by American dream, investing in stuff that's failing. That's the whole thing. That's the lie. You call it a lie. No, it's their weapon. Only weapon they got against you is to deceive you. They said they would go out after God can make out, go out to see the whole world, deceive you as to your power, your wealth, who you are. Because if you come back to who you are, if you're on Elijah Muhammad's level, there's nothing they could do. If you go to Suleiman's level, oh man, it's impossible. They totally wiped out because he just takes to the next level. That's that new technology and everything I'm telling you about. That's what the lie is, brothers and sisters. And you buying into it. Oh, I'm with the Rams. I'm with the Eagles. I'm with LeBron and all those demons and all that stuff, right? Diversions. Oh, I'm gonna get me some chitlins. I'm gonna get me some hog maws and chitlins. And that's I'm gonna give me a beer. And they be sitting and they put all these movies out there that reinforce that nonsense. And that's how you do it, brothers and sisters. To keep you under control, because they don't have any real control over you. They have to get you to give control to them by lowering your pressure field. Keep you divided. That's what that's all about, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna leave it there. That's what it's all about. So if those of you who fall for it, you're going to be stuck here in a time of unprecedented trouble, during tribulation, and most of you may be crushed. Because any blacks here during that time, they catch you, they're going to be eaten. You think I'm talking? You think I'm talking? Go back and look at our presentation. I show it scripturally. It tells you that's exactly what's going to happen. There's no food. They're going to start. You be the first on the menu. First on the menu. It says right in the scripture, it's very clear. Okay, brothers and sisters. The lie is deception. You call a lie, no, it's the weapon of a lower pressure against higher pressure to deceive you, to get you to drop your force field, drop your pressure lower than theirs, then they control you. Because higher pressure controls lower pressure. If they can yours drop lower than theirs, they control you. Let's move on to the next one. Convergence. Okay. They talk about the Christ and Antichrist. Now, I was going to go into mathematics, but there's so much to cover here, bro, so I'm not going to do it. They tell you that the Antichrist is not one person. They tell you there's many Antichrists. But the Antichrist, right, you understand, Antichrist is a star would rise in the east. That means star rise in the east, the herald, the conception of the Christ or Suleiman. So if the star was riding in the east, that means he had to be in the west to observe in the east. Because if he's in the west, then he would say a star either rose above or rose in the east. But he's in the west, so that's why he says a star rose in the east. And both of them happened at the same time. And that was a star in 1948, because that's false Israel came on the scene 1948. That's the same year, the same time, not even months away, the same time he was conceived. Both come same. That's some powerful mathematics behind that. I'm not going to it right here. They were conceived at the same time. And so he was born in the West amongst the beasts over here in America. Newark. There's so much there, bro. So I'm not going to it. That's a point of convergence too. But it's a lot more in depth than I need to go into today. Right? But they in sync. See? And as he's rising in power, they're sinking because it's a balance there. Maybe I should say a little bit on that. If the fulcrum at 0, right? Then if you put 10 on this side, you have to put negative 10 on that side. 10 on this side, anti 10 on the side. Anti is negative. Positive 10 on this side, positive 100 on this side, negative 100 on that side. Right? To balance it out. Okay? That's at the fulcrum is 0. But that fulcrum moves to 50, right? That means it's not, I said 100 on each side, right? Okay. Now you need 150 on this side to balance 50 on this side. So it's 3-to-1 advantage. And that's what happens. Every time we get energy wave, the fulcrum moves more to our side, so therefore they have less control. That's why Antichrist came in the same time. So in other words, as Christ is rising, Antichrist is going down. See, like a seesaw, it's balanced, but then it start one going up because you move the fulcrum, then one's going up, one's going down. So as Suleiman rises, false Israel is going down. And they're about to be deceived, they're about to be destroyed in a minute. That's a story about, and that's why I call Antichrist. They're negative, they balanced, they came in existence. Because one come in existence, the other one had, because we were at point of 0. So for one to come in existence, the other one had to come in existence. If the focus is 0, if 100 come in existence, never 100 says to come to balance it. So when he came in, that's also evidence of his power, because how much, right? How much negative, I mean, it took 6 million of them to equal one of him. There's some wisdom behind that. I'm gonna leave it alone. It shows how much power we come in, but it's still balanced. But every year, he's moving up and they're moving down. Because the fulcrum is moving out in our favor. See, the fulcrum is that little point in the center. Okay, move on, brothers and sisters. I'm gonna move a little quicker now because, like I said, my voice is about to go in. And this was happening right here. See right here? This is 1948. There's no false Israel, no Suleiman. It's angel key. We don't change anything. We just tell you what the key says. All of a sudden they came in at the same time. Star rose in the east, that's a star. He was conceived at the same time. Is that a coincidence? You need to check it. Okay. Now we're going to go to another. This is 2 witnesses that Farrakhan's trying to convince you that that's Elijah and him. Boy, that boy is dumb. He's totally dumbass. That's what he is. He's a liar and a demon. He'll never understand this because their thought pressure, remember, their thought pressure can go up to a certain level. And then they can't go any further. But we can go unlimited. So their trick is to keep us lower than theirs by diversion. Oh, party, drink, have smoke, drink, party, all this kind of stuff. They just mismanage your energy so you keep on lower level than theirs. So they can constantly control you. And some of you falling for it. Okay, here's the 2 witnesses. Now, if you read this, that's chapter 11. Now, I'm going to go through this rather quickly, right? It says that they will go 1,260 days, right? Which is 42 months, right? And months it means year in this, right? But they would witness, and they would witness against false Israel. That's what they witness against. for 42 years, from 1948 to 1990. Now what happened in 1990? 1990 is when the so-called Gulf War came in, and then America and Britain moved in and they took control of the Middle East. They're the powerhouse in the Middle East. They moved in the Middle East, that's that war in heaven. It starts, I mean, that's that deep war in heaven, but as it says, from the days of John to Elijah, wicked men has taken the kingdom of heaven by force. So how the hell, if heaven is beyond the sun, moon, and stars in the 10th dimension, where how can evil men get there? That means it's Middle East. Anyway, so that's what happened. That's the 1,260 days or 42 months, 42 years that they witnessing. And then they will be cast down because America and Britain went in. They took control of the Middle East. America, Britain, and false Israel. Let's go on further. And then it was cast down for 24 years. That's the numbers in there. So I'm not going to break them down, but that tells you how they was cast down, but they weren't allowed to be buried. That means they weren't under the earth. They're in the middle position there. And they'd be there for 24 years, up to 2000, right? 15. 1991, the war was over by 1991, 24 years, and that's the JCPOA. Then they'd be on the foot of the nations. Because Obama was president at that time, that's in Belshazzar and Belteshazzar, because Obama is definitely mentioned in the scriptures all over the place. Anyway, 24, then they'll be on the foot of the nations for 42 months. So they're in position right now, and when JCLP comes in 2015, this is what happens. Then they're on the foot of the nations, right? Means they're under control of the UN. JCPOA put them under control of the UN, means they're on the foot of the nations. Be there for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. That's exactly what happened, because 3 years later, Trump came and killed the agreement. That's what talking about Daniel said, the middle of the week. Middle of the week is 3.5 days. 3.5 days, they killed the agreement, right? JCPOA. They was under 3.5 years, and then brought that only 3.5 years, 42 months, and then Trump killed it. And they started rising. And so they were rising, and that would be 3.5 years. That's where they are right now. See? That's wind is blowing. I'm not going into detail, right? They're rising. Everybody's nervous because they re-enriching uranium and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's where we are right now. Convergence. At this point, right, that's when they actually go to war with America, where they're pushing pressure on America, Britain, and false Israel. And as they're saying, man, we got to stop Iran. We got to stop Iran. They're the ones saying that. Right? And that this is the time. Convergence, 2022. And they talking about they going to war. Biden just said the other day that there's going to be a regime change. They got all that conflict going on over there right now that's inspired by CIA, right? Everybody knows that's what's going on over there. So that means this I'm telling you, because this is 2022 and this is November. That means we only got a few more days left, brothers and sisters. All these talk about this point of conversion, these point you to everything I've talked about so far points to 2022. Okay? And then the war in heaven. When Michael's angels go against the dragon's angels. I'm not going into that detail who they are. I've talked about this extensively in previous presentation. Go look at them. Who the dragon is, who Michael's angels are. Well, the dragon's angels are America, Britain, and false Israel. This got defeated. The war is going to go out. They're going to be victorious. Sheol going to be victorious and kick America and Britain out of the Middle East. That's how they kicked them out of heaven. Right? And then false Israel is under siege, and America and Britain is in war with China. See up there where the sea is, and also war that's going to kick off Armageddon, because America's been in war with Europe. If they're in war with Europe, that means Britain also going to be in war with Europe. But also be in war over China, over Taiwan and everything, right? That's immediately going to happen once they kicked out of the Middle East. It falls Israel under siege. When you're under siege, that's going to trigger famine here. We'll talk a little bit about that, because they talking about diesel, don't have enough diesel, they run out of diesel. With no diesel, no trucks move. If they had food, they couldn't get to the store. If it got to the store, it'd be so expensive, you couldn't afford it anyway. They said they're about to run out. Plus, when this war takes off over there, that means America supply all, because remember, she is going to take total control of all the oil coming out of the Middle East, especially even that stuff that false Israel got control of, they found in the ocean over there. That means no oil is coming, and America's already oil deprived. And then they're at war, and so the government's going to have to confiscate all the oil that's available to fight this war over there in Europe. That means famine, no food. Even if they have food, they can't get it to you. If they got on a farm, it won't be long because people are going to invade the farm and get all they can get. There's not be no food. All it's going to trick all at the same time. So it'll come to you as a storm. It says it'll come as a thief in the night. Also come as a storm. See? All this will happen when they war. And when there's no food here, it says absolutely no food. There won't be any food of any kind. I told you, if there's any food at all, it'll be bird shit, and they're going to be astronomical amount of money to get that. You know, that's if they're going to eat, and you're going to be on the menu, brothers and sisters. That's why they're going to attack us. That's no straw together. I'm not going. I don't know if how much. If I'm going to get to that too much of that here. Okay, what's the next one here? Okay, Nineveh. Now Nineveh. See, you have Nineveh and you have Nineveh, the great city. See, Farrakhan talking about he's going to Nineveh, Nineveh, the great city. He thinks that Nineveh, great city, is America. He thinks Nineveh, great city is one thing. No, Nineveh, great city is America. Nineveh is Native Islam, because Nineveh had 3 days journey across, 3,000 miles across. America's 3,000 miles across, but Nineveh was one day's journey in from the East Coast, which would be Chicago, where headquarters in Hawaii. And Nineveh repented. But who they repented of? Farrakhan. Because Jonah went to them. Jonah's southern man. Remember, he said. That's in Mark, where they ran to him and submitted. That's them. See? So they repented. Because in Mark, that's the story. They got away from Legion. They repented of Legion. They went to I got away from him and went to Suleiman. That's what's happening here. So that's what's happening here. 2020. Okay. When did Farrakhan take over? See, they had to be, they had to be a plague by it before they could repent. They had to, so he didn't take over since 1980. Right? So remember, Jonah was supposed to preach for 40 years. He said 40 years you'll be destroyed. You'll be destroyed after 40 years. Right? So 40 years will put you 2020. But it wasn't destroyed because it says there's some need their right hand from left hand. That gets to the angel, understand the angel key and everything else, right? And so they were supposed to be destroyed in 2020. But since they repented, now you got to read the whole story, because it said the king of Nineveh, right? He went, and it was time frame. Once he decided to repent, then he had to go and sit in the ashes, right? And he had everybody sit in the ashes, and he covered himself with sackcloth. That's talking about the war. See, because the sackcloth represents the Shia, and now they're up top there, they write under the NOI, if you understand the NOI key. I mean, if I can show that right quick, and then, okay. See right here, if you see this, where it says Shia, Syria, that's the Shia, right? And under the wind, that's right on top of the rain there, that's where the Nation of Islam would be, right? That's where it would be. So sackcloth is also, read chapter 11, it's also Syria and Iran. So at that point, right, that's when they actually repent. I mean, the official. That's what it's telling. That's where it says you have to. 2020, he said they would be destroyed in 2020, but so God didn't do it. And that's what got Jonah angry and everything. But then it says he got everybody to repent at that point in time when he sat on the ashes. So that covers the period that's brings you up to 2022 again. So he said, well, there's a 2-year gap there, right? Well, that shows you, it says the full repentance took place once he covered himself with sackcloth and sat in the ashes. He said, well, where's the other 2 years? There it is right there. Anyway. So, It says NOI rejects Farrakhan. So, and they all rise together when the war, after wars take place, they all come together, and this is what happens. Because they all come together. And then there's going to be a fight, like it says in Exodus. They all came together, or the chaff and the wheat came together, and then the chaff was separated out and thrown in the fire. So we all come together, but then there's a war between us and the demons, and we cast the demons out. See, so we all come together. See up at the top there? All come together. Elijah returns, because Elijah was told to teach the demons and the saints. He said, well, Elijah, he was teaching the Mexican, like I said, he was told, because he told, no, you don't separate the chaff and the wheat. You just preach to both of them. He said, Suleiman would come, he would do that. And so that's what he cast out right there. There's a cast out. We showed that previously, right? They cast out. At that point, they started a 5-month war. Locusts, they also referred to locusts. Why they call them locusts in that sense? Because you eat locusts when there's no food, don't you? There's a lot more, a lot of stuff I'm not telling you. Those that study the angel understands I'm leaving a lot of stuff out here. So I'm going to move a little quicker, brother. Oh, yeah, I'm going to move a little quicker. Okay. I'll probably do a part 2 on this, because I'm taking a lot more time than I expected. Son of Perdition. Now, Son of Perdition, he had 42 years of rule. Remember I told you, Convergence, all this come out 2022. So Farrakhan came on the scene after the falling away. He came in 1980, and this is the 42nd year. Convergence, when he's going to be cast down. I just show you he's cast down. He's about to be cast out. Because he's a demon. His father's a devil. So Elijah's period was 1930s to 1975. He, in the 40 some years. He said, Master from Muhammad only gave him enough knowledge to last 42 years, or 40 some years, right? So this is where he is. He's teaching both the saints and the chaff, or the demons, right? And that's the first. That's where the condition was in 1975 when Elijah departed, right? So he departs. This story of Elias, I'm not going to that, but read Elias, that story of Elias with him. Right. Anyway, we want a double portion of Elijah's spirit. There's a lot of stuff I can talk about, but I don't want to get diverted. So Elijah goes up, he's departed. Right? That's why Farrakhan's Elias, that's why he can't see. That's first statement. It says, where's the God of Elijah? Because he can't see him now, but that's another story. Right? Elijah removed, 1975. And then comes the falling away. Now, Farrakhan turns around. It says, be not deceived. The falling away will come first, and then the man of sin revealed. So he tried to change around. Why they say don't be deceived? Because he's going to try to deceive you in that point. He's trying to say that since he's revealing Satan, now they're falling away from him. No, he said the falling away come first. So the falling away came first after Elijah was no longer there, because there's no way to imagine into eye. So it fell away. Right? And then what? 1980, right? Farrakhan shows up. Now he's in charge. Son of Perdition, sitting in Elijah's seat in the temple. And said he would reign for 42 years. He said he would make war against the saints to overcome them. Who are the saints? Saints of NOI. Aren't they the ones going to inherit the kingdom and everything else? He said, we'll cut with his mouth for 42 years. That's what happened. And that ends this year. He said in Elijah's seat, demon. A 42-year reign, and now this is what's going to happen. The war is going to take place. All blacks coming together because they're all under attack. And we're going to kick the demons out. That's the whole story about Mark. Okay, convergence. He stays on your own. All is coming into 2022, all at convergence. And then the locust war, they kicked out. And they're fighting with the devil's the master for 5 months. Then eventually get wiped out. Why do they fight with Master? Because Master's trying to eat them, because there's no food here. And other reasons. Okay. We're getting there. We're almost there, brothers and sisters. And now the 4 winds. Convergence. The 4 winds. 1980 to 2022. They supposed to blow in 2022. Convergence. Says some of this is redux because I kind of like bundled it. One I did yesterday because I had set up and then I have a work copy. I copied my work copy over to my file and realized it. So it had some bugs in it. But I double checked it today. So if I mess up today, I don't know what to say, brothers and sisters. I just need more rest. Anyway, 4 winds. Now, those are 4 winds up top there. Right? So they were held back by a 6th trumpet. See? And this configuration doesn't take place, because remember, this configuration takes place after falling away. And Farrakhan's review, 1980. So he's sitting in a seat there. That's 1980s. And it says that they was held back for a year, month, day, and hour. Now, I'm not going to mathematics, as I already explained it before, but what do you get out of that? In the short, when you go back to chapter 11 again, right, it says 1,260 days. It's hard. This remember, this book is sealed. You have to unseal it. You have to figure all these riddles out. So it says 1,260 days, right? Then you convert that to months, right? To 1,000 to 42 months. And then you convert 42 months to 42 years. Year, month, day. That's when they will be released. And that was 42 years. So 42 years from 1980, that's this year, the 44 winds. And what happens, remember this configuration right here. This happens when the war takes place. Because now Syria and Iran is in the top position again, the command position. Now, American Britain is thrown out, cast out, while Israel's taken down, right? Which has all kind of connotations, right? That's when the war starts. And then the winds blow. And the winds blow. Now, during this four winds blow, things happen. So I'm showing the first 3 because some other things happen while they're blowing. So I'm just showing you part of it because the 4th one hasn't blown yet. The reason I'm doing it, I'm showing you all these things happen between the time the 1st one blows and the 4th one blows. So what's happening here? Remember, the winds blow. That's when all black folks come together, right? Demon and saint. 4th wind hasn't blown yet. Still during this time. Convergence, right? 2022, right? So the 4th one hasn't blown yet. So it's in the process of blowing now. Okay. And then that's when it blows. When the 4 winds finally blow, that means we're going. Demons are cast out. That means all is going to happen in a few more days. A few more days. Convergence. Okay, we're almost getting there. Almost there. I think I missed something somewhere. Anyway, if I did, I think I missed something somewhere. We'll see. Okay, loose the demons. These are all demons. People you love. Got you worshiping them, your old mouths. They're all demons. Slave masters' children. They control you, can make fun of you, make us look stupid and everything else. That's their purpose. See? That's master's tools, one of his last tools, destroy us. Because they wolves in sheep clothing. So here we go. Oh, no, I didn't miss it. Now, this time about the demon, it says the 5th trumpet, he was given a key to the bottomless pit. That released the demons or the locusts. This is locust war, which is also a demon war. Locusts are demons. So here's the key. One of the winds are the key. The first wind is the key. I said all this happened while the winds are blowing. Right? So this is what happens. That's the key. First wind blows. And that caused, right? While it's happening, right? That's when he released the demons, and they said like smoke come up, right, into the throne, and then the smoke come out of the earth. So it's a little complicated bone system. But smoke rose up. That's the demons that rose up, all the chemicals, and then they cast down, and that starts the demon war. Loose the demons. So all this happens when the winds blow. I'll show you a little more detail. See, wind, fourth wind. Hasn't blown yet, about to blow. And then the demons are cast out. And we snatched out here. Michael delivers us. That's what's going on there, brothers and sisters. Convergence, 2022. Everything's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen suddenly. But it says, Suleiman, I appoint you as a watchman in the house of Israel. When you see war and famine and stuff coming, you don't warn the people, right? The blood's on your hands. Farrakhan claimed he's a watchman. He ain't warning you anything. He said, "Oh, sir," and then when he did talk about it months ago, hide yourself from the indignation in your whatever you call it. I forgot what he in some cage or something, right? And pray. That's the example. Pray. Time when President Church supposed to pray. Brothers and sisters, he's going to be when this happens. It says he's gone. They're going to turn on him. That's always the process happening anyway. He's going to be in that demon war, and he's going to be destroyed in the end. He's going to have a horrible, horrible death. Horrible. Right? Because he's cursed. He says in Malachi, will a man rob God? Who's robbing the nation of Islam? They ain't he's not master for Muhammad. He started. Now Elijah Muhammad, he nurtured it. Who's getting rich off of it? Who hasn't produced a damn thing in 42 years? He's robbing it. Then he wants to bring devils and everything else in, totally against what Elijah Muhammad, Master Muhammad taught. That's why he cursed with a curse. Disemboweled. His reproductive removed. The organs removed. He's pathetic. Okay, was that it? Yeah, okay, I guess it was. Okay, this is the last part. Finally there, brothers and sisters. Last part. Lord of Dawn. Master Muhammad is Lord of Dawn. I keep telling you, he's Lord of this age, the 6,000 year period. We just came through winter. It's the spring now. We're in the spring thaw right now. The winter was Dr. Yaqub. He's the God of that age. Master Muhammad's God is 6,000 year period. Right? So I'm going to go to this rather quickly, brothers and sisters, but not too quickly. Now, I missed this. I was kind of upset because this is the graph I wanted to show you the other day, and I put the wrong one in. This is the case. So, in short, 6,000 years ago, right, it was all gold. There's 3 tribes. Tribe of Shabazz, tribe of Hindi, tribe of Levites. Or tribe of Shabazz, there was top tribe was tribe of Shabazz, then Levites, that what you call Africa, the Africans, right? And Levi was called the Asians, right? Those are the only 3 tribes there were, right? Okay. So, at 6,000 years ago, when the boy devil was in, right, they started mixing up with them. And so, the Levites in Hindi, right, the angel has them being red. It means they diminish their nature. They start mixing it with them. Because we were some energy that been 50,000 years, but it became very acute 6,000 years ago. So we didn't have enough energy to maintain civilization anymore. We lost enough energy. 6,000 years ago, we kept losing energy for 50,000 years. Energy losing, it kept draining energy away because energy that used to be here, was out there now. So now it's coming back, right? But 6,000 years ago, it was still going away. So we was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So we didn't have enough energy to maintain civilization. So that's why we said make Adam in, because he was a lower creature. He had less complexity, so he didn't have requires much energy, so he had enough energy to maintain a so-called disposable income, maintain civilization. So we maintain our nature. But Levites and Cindy, they mixed in order to avoid energy deprivation at that point. Because energy deprivation got really bad at the end of the 6,000 year period, but it was bad, but it was getting, but that's how they started coming lighter and lighter and lighter. The average was just dark as this. Muhammad was probably darker than me. They was all dark. But now they look white over there, but they wasn't like that even 1,500 years ago. They got lighter and lighter and lighter. And we became at the bottom because we said Dr. Shabazz made it so strong that we was going to maintain our nature. We wanted to maintain our original nature all the way through this process. That means we was some energy deprivation more than anybody else. So now, stop being a top tribe. If you look here, we're the bottom tribe now. Right? But the devils, we brought them into this, they still at the bottom. Because they start gaining power as we move further and further down towards the maximum at the bottom, right? 1860s. So then the next level, right, you still going down. Now the Hindus, they get above, right? The devils are moving up, but the Hindus still powerful, right? The Levites are under the devils, right? And we under them, so we're the lowest at that point. See, it's going down. And in Hindi, because they came lighter. They mix itself more in to avoid energy deprivation. That's the whole science behind Master Muhammad, because he had to have a white mother so he could avoid energy deprivation. But we wanted to maintain our full nature, and that means we suffered more. So we became for the nations. Then when you see on the bottom down here, we're at the bottom, 1861, the maximum extension, the lowest level. And at that point, we had the total bottom. Not only that, right? But we all corrupt, because now half our nation become demons, right? The devil's on top, right? And under them are the Orientals, right? I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but they're under them, because who's the most powerful in the world today? Europeans. Who's next under them? The Orientals, and then the Asians, and then the Africans, and we're at the bottom. That's the structure we are right now. But now, in 1860s, right, we start moving up. So right about now, you're over here, right? This is the structure that we're putting together right now. They said this came from Suleiman to put this structure, this is also called the Ark, right? To put this structure together, because this structure is easier to maintain. Under energy deprivation, this structure, we have enough energy to maintain this structure. We can't maintain a full gold structure. We don't have enough energy to do that. But we can have this hybrid structure, right? Because remember, the Shia, they don't suffer energy deprivation. They're like Master Muhammad, not suffer energy deprivation. And they're the ones going to rule, because it says Master Muhammad will rule the nations with a rod of iron with them. But we're the creator. We're the creator. So we're there, right? But we can maintain a nation with this diluted civilization, not pure gold. See? And by doing this, that means we'd have control of the devils. Not only that, but we took their ability to discipline themselves, because remember, they had scripture. We don't give them scripture anymore. We don't want them to be disciplined. We don't want them to repent, because then they gain power again. So we keep them down, because otherwise we don't want them to control us for another 6,000 years. So now we're rising in that configuration. And then 6,000 years from now, we have enough energy to return back to a gold standard. Like Muhammad said, eventually we'll turn back to all being one skin tone again, one nation. One nation here, but this configuration will allow us to gain control and rule for the next 6,000 years. And keep the devils. They'll be 6,000 years too, but they'll be underfoot. They'll be in hell. And we'll make sure they stay there. They won't send me prophets or mission, anything to get them out of there. They're locked up in there for 6,000 years. At 6,000 years, the pressure will be so great that they won't be able to just crushing. They'll be out of existence. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. I'm going to leave that there. Hope you understand. I don't know if I need to do a redux, because I think I got everything right this time. Maybe I might take a little time to explain each one of these items by itself. But anyway, this is general. This is where we are. This is the wisdom you need to get through this situation. And 5 fundamental principles of Islam that get you maximize your pressure field. But even if you maximize your pressure field and they can't do anything to you, you still don't behave when they burn this place up. That's why you have a Lamb's Book of Life, because you're only going to pick those that are loyal, faithful. They say Master Muhammad is faithful and true. See? And in leaving, they got this new movie come out called Devotion. See, they play this game with you. These are black folks fighting for white folks, and they devoted. See, why they call it devotion? Why they come to these movies? Why they come to movies like this now? Because they know they could be in a war, and they want you still be loyal to them. Why? Because they don't want you hearing this kind of message. So this is devotion. Why in the hell would we be devoted to them? Tell me, what in the world can we reason why we be devoted for any reason? The demons will be, because that's their children. It was their black-faced children, right? House Negroes. But for us to be devoted to them, for what? Hope you understand, bro and sis. I'm going to leave it there. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there, bro and sisters. Hope you understand. Assalamu alaikum.